Kלים Perek Gimel Mishnah Daled. We saw before that a chovis, a kli cheres, can become tohor because of a hole of a certain size, but still doesn't lose its shem kli. The nafkamin is that were you to repair it, it would get its shem kli back. Whereas a gistera, which is a smashed piece of cheres, can still be mekabel tumah materes gistera, but once it loses its kabbalas tumah materes gistera, for instance with a small leak, there's nothing you can do. You just chuck it in the bin. There's absolutely no way that you can reconstitute the shem kabbalas tumah. Says the Mishnah, another such case is chavish shenisroya. You've got a kli shalem, a kli cheres, and it's become so weakened, so smashed about, that it's very, very shaky. And in fact, if you put things in, there are so many cracks that things would actually fall out or it would break. And Baltanura tells us the shear is, it's so weak and so shaky that it can't even carry a chatzi kav of groigris. Chatzi kav is used because that's the standard shear for a suda achas. So now this chovis is so weak, it's tohor. But for tiplo biglolim, you mend it. You take glolim, you take dung, and you smear a layer of glolim over the kli cheres. Although the glolim was so important that were you to take the glolim away, it would then crumble under, it would cave in. Tamea, you can repair a kli cheres if it's still got its shem kli. In other words, it hasn't been turned into a gistra. And this chavish in Israel always retained its shem kli, and therefore, just by now strengthening it in such a way that it can carry a kav, a chatzi kav agregris, you have now made from the kli cheres back. You've put it back into a shem kli. Sorry, it never lost its shem kli, but it now made it royal a kabel tumah because it now is able to carry a chatzi kav agregris. The kli cheres never having lost its shem kli. The penesh botel shem kli meoleho. However, in contrast, nishbra, if a cheres smashes, literally smashes into bits, so now of course I've got all my individual bits, not only is it tohor, I don't have any shem kli anymore. Maybe there's a Torah's gisra on some of the bits, we'll see that in the sefer. But that's not relevant to us because our bits have completely lost their shem kli. You try to repair that for dovak memeno charsis. You pick up some of the powdery stuff from the broken kli cheres and you mix it with a chemical called lime, says the Tiferes Yisrael, and that makes a glue. And you take some of this glue and you piece the pieces together, or you bring glue from another place, not from within, for tiplon biglolim, and you put a layer of glolim over it, and you mend it and you make it strong again. Although you make it so strong that even were you to take away the glolim, the old pieces of cheres would still be stuck together. But now it's too late. You had a kli cheres, you smashed it to bits. You cannot rebuild a kli cheres this way. The only way you can rebuild a kli cheres is to refire it in the oven to have tziruf kivshon again. It's Torah. By being smashed, the old shem kli is gone. The only thing you could possibly done on is there still a Torah's gistra on the pieces? Well, that depends on each of the individual pieces that were left. Up to now, we're assuming that all the pieces were small enough, they weren't big enough to have a Torah's gistra. They weren't machzik, k'desi chashem, as mentioned in Perek Beis Mishnah Beis. Therefore, you cannot take the bits of a broken kli cheres, put them back together, and reform a kli cheres. The only way you can reform a kli cheres is to put it through the process of tziruf kivshon, just like you made it in the first place. Says the Mishnah, however, when the kli cheres was smashed and you took glue and put it together again, if one of those broken pieces had the shear of a revius, and therefore, and the shear of revius is, Baltanura tells us that if you go back to Perek Beis Mishnah Beis, there are different sizes for gistra depending on the original kli. If a kli lechatchila was miloig va'at sa'or, then the shear of the gistra is a revius. This expression just means if you have one of the broken pieces is a gistra, and the other pieces are not gistrois, and then you'd stick it all together, all you have now, you have a gistro, and all the other pieces are no more than a yad to the gistro. We've never done the dinim of yodos with kli cheres, and that's what we're introducing here. Hoya ba cheres machzik revi'is, if one of the pieces was machzik revi'is, kula metame b'maga. There's a machloikas how yodos work. But a yad with a normal kli, not a kli cheres, a yad is simply machnes u'moitzi tuma b'maga. That means, if the kli is tomei and you were to touch the yad, then you become tomei. Or if you are tomei and you touch the other kli, becomes tomei. But with the kli cheres, let's recap again. The kli cheres is makabel tuma through avir only, which means if the ava tuma is suspended, enters the airspace of the kli cheres picks up tuma. Now, a yad doesn't have this ability to pick up tuma through avir, because a yad, according to most poskim, a kli cheres isn't strong enough to enable its yad to pick up tuma through avir. The yad actually cannot pick up tuma at all, because the only way kli cheres can be mikabel tuma is through avir. There's no maga with the kli cheres. But where the yodos helps is that once the kli cheres is tomei, because it came tomei through its avir, the kli cheres is able to be metamei other things if things were to touch it, for instance on its outside, me'achoyrov. Remember, kli cheres, which is tomei, can be metamei other things two ways, either through its avir if something is held inside its airspace, or if something touches the outside of the kli cheres, who are in the yad. Once the kli cheres is tomei, then the yad is able to be metamei further b'maga. And that's what it means here. Kula metamei b'maga. The whole kli cheres, all the broken bits, all have a din, at least of a yad. And therefore, if tuma reached the kli cheres because something was held in the avir of the gistro, then the whole kli cheres becomes at least a yad to the gistro and is able to pass on tuma if something were to touch it. And it doesn't make a difference. Once we're dealing with a yad, which side, the inside or the outside, there is no inside and outside to a yad. It's all of it's got a din of achiraim, that it's metame oni b'maga. But it's just in front of the gistra itself, that's still got a din gistra, and this word should be read mitamo ba'avir, that can actually pick up tuma through its avir, and of course it can also be metame through its avir if an oichel was held in front of the gistra. Then if the gistra was tomei, then it is able to be metame as well through its avir.